This week, we looked at the second part of the reading from a book by James K.A. Smith called How Not to Be Secular, which is a summary of a very influential book by Charles Taylor called Our Secular Age. So the reading for quiz number 2 is a continuation of this chapter that is trying to define secular in a way that makes sense and understandable to our world. As a reminder, Smith and Taylor say that the main idea behind the term secular is not a battle for the territory of our culture, but it's more of an idea of contested beliefs. So this chapter is trying to answer the question essentially asked by Taylor: why is it that it was very easy to believe in God in about 1500 AD, but it's very hard to believe in God today? So some other phrases that help us understand secular are social imaginary, and this is different from an intellectual system or framework. What Taylor says is that this is a broader and deeper than the intellectual schemes people may entertain when they think about a social reality. In essence, a social imaginary then is just the way things are without thinking about it a whole lot. The porous self is also important. This is the idea in the ancient medieval world where the self is open and vulnerable to the outside world. And the buffered self is also an important word here. This is the idea that in the social imaginary of today, the self is a sort of insulated, and it's not really able to be influenced by the world around it. So let's run through the quiz here. So number 1, according to Taylor, many people in the secular age are happy living with immanent goals rather than transcendent goals. And as Taylor says, a way of putting it in our present condition, which is our secular age, is to say that many people are happy living with goals which are purely immanent. They live in a way that takes no account of the transcendent. So this is true. So in other words, people in the current age are happy to live with certain goals that are attainable in the immanent frame. That is, maybe they want to make a lot of money, maybe they want to have a family, those sorts of things that are able to be transpired within this immanent frame. Number 2, the naturalization that is essential to exclusive humanism was first motivated by Christian devotion. And here's the chapter or the paragraph that is from Smith's book. Taylor sees such overconfidence as failing to note an irony. The naturalization, so in other words, how our world sees nature, that is essential to exclusive humanism, was first motivated by Christian devotion. The irony is that just this, so much the fruit of devotion and faith prepares the ground for an escape from faith. It is in the purely immanent world. So in other words, it was Christians who were trying to understand the world that started this whole idea of thinking of the natural world that has been taken over by the secular world. So that is also true. Number 3, which is not a feature of the current social imaginary. Individualism, the buffered self, the disembedded self, or it was the preference for realism over nominalism. And he talks somewhat about nominalism here. We'll mention that in just a minute. So the answer to that, which is not a feature, was D. Number 4, according to the Roman Catholic Taylor, because he is Roman Catholic, Reformed Christianity became less sacramental and more about reason. So Smith says, so religious expectations of sanctification are increasingly generalized, yielding a new vision of how society can and should be ordered. There is a corresponding shift in religious practice that must be noted. These developments, desacramentalization, that's an important word, and the generalization of discipline, come with the eclipse of other key features of pre-modern Christian religion. In particular, Taylor highlights the loss of any coherent place for worship, the eclipse of certain crucial Christian elements, those of grace and agape, already changed quite decisively the center of gravity of this outlook. Moreover, there didn't seem to be an essential place for the worship of God. other than through the cultivation of reason and constancy. So, in other words, one of the things that Taylor says is that Christianity itself set up the idea of the secular, naturalized realm when it took away these ideas of the sacramental, such as transubstantiation. The elements actually become the body and blood of Christ. And so when we take that supernatural idea out of worship, then we are setting ourselves up, Taylor would say, for more of a secular idea. So that was true as well. Number 5, according to Taylor, we have adopted the modern social imaginary only after thinking deeply about it. And this would be false, right? Because what he is saying is that the social imaginary is something that is the background thinking for everybody. And then we had an extra credit question: what is the philosophical system that says that things are only what they are named? And this is the idea of nominalism that he puts in there and talks about, which isn't absolutely essential to us understanding the secular world as presented by Taylor and Smith. So that was hopefully the answers that you were looking for to the quiz. So thanks for listening.